Hi, you're watching a very special recording of Astro Awani. I'm here outside of the studio right here at KLCC Convention Center, thanks to MDEC. And you know, it's always amazing to find great people all in one place. And at Next Big Tech Asia 2017, which is the anchor event of Big Data Week, I've got the ability to meet so many great people. Two of them are with me today, and closest to me is Lim Chi Hao, the CEO and co-founder of Tapway. I'll tell you what Tapway is, or Lim Chi Hao will do that. But suffice to say, we need young Malaysians like this who look at the supply chain of the new digital economy, especially one backed by big data and IoT, and move things forward for us. And the name that's growing more and more in terms of the contribution to Malaysian digital economy is Fusionex, and the Vice President, Mr. Raju Chellam, is here with me also. I'm going to give you this kind of question. How is big data analytics playing a role as a catalyst to enhance the retailer's management system toward a new wave of total customer experience? Sounds a mouthful, but don't worry. On our agenda, I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to start with Lim Chi Hao first. And it's always the young people that looks at new stuff and wanting to change the world. So if I approach from that question rather than the earlier one that I posted, so what was it from wanting to change the world that made you and your co-founder look at big data analytics, look at Internet of Things, and of course, by virtue of that, the fourth industrial revolution, and Malaysia, and the business of B2B, for example? How did you start, and what kind of vision did you have when you decided that, hey, this is what I wanted to do, compared to many other your age in Malaysia who would probably fulfill the wishes of their parents to be either a doctor, lawyer, accountant, or something like that?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Well, all things grow out of frustration, and it's the same for me. So when I was studying in the States, we all know about the power of Amazon and how e-commerce has been revolutionizing the industry. But brick and mortar retailers, which is really the traditional retailers in Malaysia and all around the region, they are still struggling to keep up with e-commerce. And that's really because there's not enough data that's captured in the real world. So with the advance of technology such as big data and IoT, our vision is really trying to bring them closer to what e-commerce has been, how good customer experience has been in the digital world, and bring it to the brick and mortar world. So to simplify it, basically, if you are browsing on Amazon, for example, you will see a different page than another person next to you. And that's because it's a personalized journey. It's customized to me. Exactly. But if you go to a shop, they never know who you are when you step into the store. They don't know what your preferences are. And that's because there's not enough data that's captured at the storefront. The only data that's captured is at the point of sales, which is really at the end of the cycle. Correct. Yeah. So what we do is we install sensors, and we have a location-based marketing engine that's engaging the retailers and the shoppers together.
Is it being, largely powered or being made able by the fact that many people will travel everywhere with their smartphones?
That's right. Yeah. So one of the technologies is really tapping onto either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth technologies to really have that location-based notification when you enter the store. But another big part of what we do, which is not really analyzing your mobile device behavior, is really analyzing your behavior when you walk in through video cameras. Yeah, so CCTV cameras have been around for ages, but they are really passive. They are not active, right? If you can apply algorithms to analyzing images, you don't need someone sitting in a security room, identifying certain events. Those events will be identified by robots.
So it's behavioral analytics done through the old tech of CCTV.
Yes.
Put together at the back end with machine learning and possibly AI.
That's right. And same for Wi-Fi as well. We have been installing all these devices everywhere. It's just broadcasting free Wi-Fi. But what we do is we are using Wi-Fi to then capture device data and to know where these devices are standing at, so where shoppers are standing at, and derive patterns like why are people not walking to this path of the shop? Is it because of ID that's not designed well, marketing that's not designed well, things like that? Yeah.
Fusionex has been in the business for quite some time. Of course, Raju Chellam has just joined Fusionex, but you see the big picture. You've heard of them before you joined them. Of course, you know of them. And which part of the picture does Fusionex looks at for that kind of empowerment?
Thanks for having me here. I came all the way from Singapore to be on this show.
Yes.
Yeah, so as he rightly said, he takes all of that data, all of that video analytics, all of that IoT, and throws it up automatically to Fusionex. We do the analytics and throw back the intelligence so that he can act on an intelligence like this.
So, sorry to interject, but Tapway or other people who wants to use the back end of analytics doesn't have to have the engine themselves. They can just work together with Fusionex.
Yes, so we believe in partnerships. So we will work with Tapway and all the retail malls, for instance, get their data, do the analysis for them as a managed service. So they stick to their core business, which is retail or selling. We stick to our core business, which is big data.
I've heard this being said by maybe typical layman that sounds expensive. How much is that going to be? What's the barrier of entry in terms of cost? I mean, looking at Fusionex alone, these are very, very sophisticated and high-tech stuff compared to the brick and mortar. So is it costly to have an engagement with Fusionex before I even go to you, let alone Sing dollars? I have to count my Malaysian ringgit and see whether it's feasible for me to even partner Fusionex. What would you say to the people who might be thinking that, watching what we're discussing and hearing this?
So if your core business is retail or wholesale or whatever else other than IT, yes, it is expensive for you to have your own data scientists and set up the whole infrastructure. But if you do it with us, you start small. You probably even start free. We are willing to do a free POC just to show you that your data is valuable, that your data can get intelligence out. And as you get the wins, as the machine learns, you start paying per use or per user or per transaction. So it's not a situation where you give me R1 million and I do everything for you and throw it back to you and say, now do what you want. I would rather partner with you and help you succeed every step of the way, because that way we can grow both your business and our relationship.
Of course, of all the things you say, a lot of Malaysians and Singaporeans too, I guess, will latch on to that word free or discounts or whatever it is. But bootstrapping is a culture that's more and more the usual nowadays. And I guess a lot of technopreneurs and entrepreneurs are used to that already by now. But I have to go for the first break. Once we are back, the needs and wants of the consumers are getting more and more sophisticated. Sometimes for the initial beginning phase or phases, the machine might not be coping well with that, because a serial buyer, like my friend, even the handbag is Celine, for example, or maybe even Birkin, they might have a specific way of knowing this stuff already. So if the machine learning is not catching up to that in the beginning, because that's the first time the machine is learning about this particular person A moving. So how do you compensate for that in the initial phases? Because I think to roll out technologies like this, especially in our region, would have at the beginning at least a balance between the human interpretation plus the machine wisdom in that sense. We'll discuss that right after this short break. You're still watching a very special recording of Astro Awani, thanks to Next Big Tech Asia 2017, and of course our friends and partners MDAC. And I'm still here with a very interesting young Malaysian, Chi. I want to look at the fact where sometimes we blame the technology for many things that's actually human, the human experience. So I think that's going to happen too with big data analytics, IoT, and all the rest. So Chi Hao, if you can be so kind, I'm sure you and your partner and your team has gone through the rigors of being the critics of your system yourself, and maybe using your friends and family members. So how would you go out in setting forth the first maiden experience of people? Because I think you still need a lot of human intervention in the beginning, for example.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. There's a big gap between brick and mortar shopping and really online shopping, because online shopping is so much easily trackable because you can track every single click,
Correct.
but you can't really track every single step.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we're doing, but it's also very challenging in terms of technology.
Okay.
I think you have heard of fancy ideas like Amazon Go,
Yep.
which is really just using a fusion of cameras to track where you are, what items you
You
pick
don't
up,
need
and things
any
like that.
humans there to manage anything.
Not at all, and you don't even need to scan your items or whatever. You just walk out, right? So that's kind of the idea that we had in the beginning, but of course we don't have the power and
You need skill for that. Yeah?
Oh yeah, definitely, and also tremendous, very good machine learning algorithms and AI. So yeah, we are doing step by step really to reach that point. So now what we have is when you reach the storefront, we'll be able to detect whether you are walking past the store or you're walking into the store.
Correct. That's,
Yeah.
that's good enough. For
Yeah,
me.
that's good enough, because for a lot of the stores nowadays, you know, there's so many malls around, and you really need to know about your store sales conversion.
Correct.
Yeah, so store sales conversion starts from number one. Are there enough people walking into your store or
Yes,
not?
traffic.
Yeah. Even are there enough people walking past your store? Because that's the potential you're trying to attract in.
Yeah.
And with every marketing campaign and different storefront display, you'll be able to measure the impact of how many people walk into the store.
So
Yeah.
where is this service now? Where is it at?
Oh yeah, so we have deployed to a lot of retailers in Malaysia. So primarily fashion retailers would adopt this kind of technology because they want to measure, you know, shopper behavior much more closely than,
Correct.
for example, restaurants. Because restaurants, once you sit down, you just sit down,
Yes.
right? But for shoppers, once they go in, you want to know whether they go to a certain island, display, things like that. What's their behavior? So that's normally where we roll out to, you know, shoes, like Nike, like Bata, and things like that. We also deploy to malls. For malls, generally, it's about the traffic into their mall. Yeah, so it's installed at all the entrances to find out which entrance attracts more people. And once you go into the mall, which floor do they normally go to?
Please share with us, if it's not a trade secret,
Yeah.
some of the lessons learned and the experiences gained from the first few rollout that you had already.
Yeah, definitely. I think technology has to be improved slowly. So when we started out, of course, we have kind of a beta version. And of course, we would sell it as a beta version, you know, a free trial for brave retailers who would like to try it. So since there is not much of consumer-facing applications, it's not really that much of an issue. It's basically just tuning the algorithms in the back end, right? So retailers will give us feedback where they say, hey, that's just not accurate. There's too many people walking past or too many people walking in. And they will check with the store manager and they say, no, that's not true. So there's a lot of all this back and forth. That's also because of certain human factors as well. Store manager will tend to downplay the crowd size in the store if their store sales are not doing well. So they can say, hey, there's not many people coming in. But in fact, our system is doing well and is tracking
Exactly
actually
that number
accurately.
of people,
So nowadays we have all this live preview video to show exactly how many we track versus the video, a short video that they see, so they can verify that our technology is working well. Yeah.
So how does Fusionex support from the human factor side? Because I'm sure there's a lot of entities in the ecosystem of Fusionex and the stakeholders that you've dealt with these kind of issues, especially in the more mature markets. But now that Southeast Asia and Asia as a whole is rising, so how do you help your clients like Tapway to, because like that is a matter of credibility of auditing, for example, but maybe with a name like Fusionex behind, then you know you can share your case studies on a more global footing.
So you raised a very good question earlier about error identification, about failures. So in Fusionex, we actually celebrate error identification. Because unless the machine is able to understand what is an error, it won't be able to understand what is correct. So we not only celebrate errors, but if there are no errors in a system and it's absolutely foolproof, then we know something is wrong. We have to deliberately introduce errors so as to minimize things called false positives. That's how the machine learns, and that's where the application of AI comes in. So above that learning comes a level of neurologic programming, let's say, where the system is able to predict, for instance, correlations between, let's say, traffic coming into the store versus what was the reason there was so much traffic. Maybe it was a rainy day, and maybe they have come into a store not to buy a huge amount of stuff, but to buy umbrellas. And then it will correlate back to figure out whether the supply chain has enough umbrellas in the store, or there are other parts of the store where the umbrellas are kept and need to be put up front so that the traffic is increased. So all of those are a conglomeration of machine learning, AI, cognitive analytics to help companies like his and companies in the retail chain to maximize. Because you just don't need footfalls if they just come in, look around and go away.
You must answer why is it not being converted to sales, for example.
Correct.
Let's go to the last break, but once we are back, I want to reverse the scenario. Even the both of you are also consumers. Your family are consumers yourselves. So what would you like to see in the future? Let's say if you have a good source of funding behind you and scaling up is not an issue. Because I always believe that especially for tech-based industries and entrepreneurship, you must have that vision of looking forward and then working backwards. So what can you sell? What dream can you sell to the people? Because I was just with the Harvard School of Graduate School of Design, and they were giving solution of the one-year project about KL and its design. And they're saying, maybe you should focus less on building big malls, because with digital e-commerce coming in, more things are going to be sent to us at home rather than we coming out to get these things. So are you factoring in this, 10, 15, 20 years from now? How do you look at this sustainability and longevity of what you're doing now and the value adds to it? We'll discuss that after this short break. You are still watching a very special recording of Agenda Awani right here at KLCC Convention Center. Thanks to MDEC. I'm here at the next Big Tech Asia 2017. I'm going to go to Fusionex first. I'm sure Fusionex looks at maybe 100 years, 50 years from now. I'm just asking your wisdom in about maybe 10 to 15 years, where I alluded earlier that in another sitting, it was presented to us by a group of academia researchers from Harvard that we shouldn't be designing so many high and tall hypermalls because digital economy is in. So how do you factor in all this thing and then look back at your partners like Tapway? Because this is the age of disruption. Even malls are going to be disrupted. So if you're just focusing on, footfalls and traffic conversion, then what about the digital side?
So look at it as two different kinds of consumers. Number one is a consumer who will sit at home and order stuff online, and that is a consumer of one, which means all of the services are congregated to that one mall who is that consumer. Then there is another consumer who will probably look at all of the stuff available online but still go and want to touch a product. Like say clothes. You might want to go to a mall and try it out, because what if the color you saw online doesn't match the color that came on the post, or the size is not perfect, or when you put it on it doesn't give you the right look. So the malls are not going to go away. They are going to be there because consumers are still going to go there for a personalized experience, for an outing. That's why the malls are becoming more like integrated resorts, where you have playgrounds, where you have food, you have cinemas. So it's a full eventful experience for them. So that's our view, that people still need to talk to other people. They still need to meet people for dinners. They still need to network, and you can't do that at a home setting.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's our view.
Yeah, Chihao?
Yeah, so for me, we have been always advocating online to offline and offline to online experience. And that's really what we call omnichannel. So there's a keyword that's been buzzing around called omnichannel.
Sure.
And really what it means is that it's integrated. So we have seen some of this stuff happening already starting in the States, where you can go to, let's say, Best Buy website to buy a phone, but you can collect it in-store. So it tell you whether it's available in-store or not. So e-commerce and brick and mortar is seamlessly integrated. And even if you can just buy it online, pay it online, you can go to the store and give a number to pick it up. So that's all seamlessly integrated.
Okay.
And we see that basically happening probably even sooner than 10 to 15 years. It's going to be in 5 years' time, you can see online and offline literally merging together, inventory management system, and everything just fusing together in one. And how we play a role is really to provide the sensor technology that can really track from online to offline and online back to online. Yeah.
How do you go into the part where the experience, as you alluded to just now, I delved into that as the last point of our discussion. More and more with AR and VR, you know, I don't have to go around the world to experience the world. You know, I could practically be in a combat zone somewhere, because hopefully in the future conflict will be so rare that we have to simulate it just to experience it. And these are the incoming trends, and people are really looking at it. Even for the classroom, the disruption in education is not so much the education per se, but it's just that everything else outside the formal education sector is teaching us so many things. So how do you incorporate all that while you're still trying to make it at this B2B kind of conversion, but at the same time, you have to be aware of the larger ecosystem? Would a startup mode suffice, or is it because you have partners like Fusionex that you're confident of where you're going?
In fact, we are slowly starting to build or starting to find the building blocks for that kind of, we call it virtual assistant experience. Sure. Yeah, so it's not really VR or AR. It's just using AI and turning it into an assistant. So for
example,
like a
more intelligent Siri.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically your assistant virtually, but you are in a physical store, right?
So that's space in the phone.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's basically chatbot, right?
Okay.
So since we understand more about shoppers, we can also aggregate from CRM data, from loyalty program and things like that. So when you detect someone is in store, you greet them, let's say on Facebook Messenger or WeChat, and then you can craft an experience for them. So here are items that we recommend to you.
So that way might not just be B2B anymore. It could also later on become a B2C player.
Yeah, so it's B2B2C. In fact, we have already sort of a platform using Wi-Fi where you sign up. It's very traditional, like when you go to an airport and sign up for Wi-Fi. So we turn it around and we use that as a location-based engagement system. So they start with going to Wi-Fi, and then we move them to basically one of the chat apps like Facebook Messenger or WeChat, and we continue the conversation with them, providing them personalized rewards and notifying them when they are leaving or when they're entering the store. Yeah.
Cool. I still have the traditional way. My producers are doing that. Never enough time with great people. But thank you so much, Chihao. Tapway. I think I'm going to see more of you in the future. I have a feeling. Fusionex, of course, forever. We are so proud to have Fusionex and Tapway, very Malaysian in heart, a kind of new wave digital economy entities of the future. And now, thank you so much, gentlemen. Thanks to MDAC and thanks to Next Big Tech Asia 2017. Send in your own views to all the social media platforms that we have, or download our iOS and Android app. You can watch, you can criticize, or you can put on anything that you want right there on your favorite mobile gadget, and it will reach us. Thank you, good night, and goodbye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.